Have you ever felt like your hard work goes unnoticed? Like you're stuck in the shadows while others seem to shine effortlessly? Let me tell you something. You're not invisible to God. Right now, your name is being spoken in places you can't see. Doors are being unlocked for you, and the connections you need are already being set in motion. God is working behind the scenes, aligning your path with people and situations that will elevate you to places you never imagined. If this resonates with you, make sure to stick around, because we're diving deep into how God elevates His chosen ones, people like you, by aligning their lives with purpose, favor, and influence. And hey, before we get started, hit that subscribe button so you never miss these uplifting messages, and drop a comment below if you're ready for God to move in your life. Let's encourage each other and share our stories. Your testimony could inspire someone else today. Your name is being spoken in rooms you've never entered. People of influence are talking about you right now, and you don't even know it, because God is moving in ways you cannot yet see. Let that sink in for a moment. Imagine a door that's been locked for years, suddenly swinging open without you even knocking. That's how God operates. He works behind the scenes, orchestrating events, placing the right people in the right positions, and aligning opportunities that perfectly match the purpose He's placed within you. You might feel unseen, overlooked, or even forgotten, but let me assure you, God sees you, and He's setting the stage for something far greater than you can imagine. You see, the thing about God's timing is that it doesn't follow our human clocks. While we're worried about deadlines or missed chances, God is busy aligning moments that will have an eternal impact. He's moving pieces into place, placing your name on the lips of people in high places, people who have the power to unlock doors you didn't even know existed. And He's doing this not because you've earned it, but because He has a purpose for your life that goes far beyond what you've planned for yourself. Think about Joseph in the Bible. One moment he's sitting in a prison cell, forgotten by the world. The next, he's being summoned to the palace, where his wisdom and gifting make him second in command over all of Egypt. Joseph didn't know what was happening behind the scenes. He didn't know that Pharaoh was having dreams that only he could interpret. But God knew. God was working behind the curtain, preparing the way for Joseph's moment of destiny. That's exactly what's happening in your life. Right now, conversations are being held about you in boardrooms, in leadership meetings, and in places you'd never expect. Someone has seen your work, your dedication, or even just the potential God has placed within you, and they're advocating for you. And here's the beautiful part. It's not something you can force or manipulate. This isn't about hustling harder or networking more. It's about trusting the God who's already gone ahead of you. When God moves, He doesn't just open one door. He makes pathways. He creates connections that no man can take credit for. And when it's His timing, it will be undeniable. You won't have to push or beg. The opportunities will come looking for you because they've been divinely orchestrated. But here's the challenge: waiting. Waiting can feel like the hardest thing in the world, especially when you can't see what's happening. You might feel stuck in your current situation, wondering if God has forgotten about you. But let me remind you, God's silence is not His absence. In fact, some of His greatest works happen in the quiet, hidden seasons of life. That's where He builds your character, strengthens your faith, and prepares you for the weight of the blessings He's about to pour out. In those moments when doubt creeps in, remember this: God's promises are always fulfilled. They may not come when you expect, but they always come right on time. He is faithful to complete the good work He started in you. And when the door finally opens, you'll see that every delay, every setback, every detour was necessary to prepare you for what's next. So, what should you do while you wait? Keep showing up, Keep doing your best even when no one's watching. Keep trusting that the seeds you're planting now will bear fruit in due season. Because when God calls your name, it won't matter who tried to hold you back or who doubted your potential. His favor will overshadow every obstacle and His purpose will prevail. Let this be your encouragement today. You are not forgotten. You are not invisible. God is working behind the scenes, moving mountains on your behalf and aligning your life with His perfect plan. Keep your faith strong, and when the moment comes, step boldly into the destiny He's prepared for you. You know, God has this incredible way of preparing His chosen ones in the most unexpected places, in obscurity, in the quiet, out of the spotlight. It's easy to think that when nothing seems to be happening, you're stuck, or worse, being punished. But what if I told you that those hidden seasons are some of the most powerful moments of your life? Let me say this loud and clear. Obscurity isn't punishment, it's preparation. God doesn't waste time. Every moment you spend in the background, away from the recognition or the opportunities you're hoping for, He's using to shape you, mold you, and build you into someone who can handle the greatness He's calling you to. Think about David. Before he was King David, the man after God's own heart, the giant slayer, the warrior, he was just a shepherd boy. Day after day he was out in the fields, tending sheep, defending them from lions and bears, with no one watching. It was lonely, dirty, and far from glamorous. But those were the moments that prepared him for his destiny. Those quiet days in the fields weren't wasted. They were training ground for what was to come. The same is true for you. In the hidden seasons, God is building your character. He's teaching you perseverance. He's strengthening your faith. He's shaping your heart so that when the time comes for elevation, you'll be ready, not just to receive the blessing, but to steward it wisely. Because here's the truth. God doesn't just want to give you success. He wants to prepare you to sustain it. Sometimes we mistake God's silence for His absence. When we don't see immediate results or feel like we're making progress, we start to wonder if He's forgotten us. But let me remind you, God does His best work in the hidden places. Just because you're not being seen doesn't mean you're not being shaped. Think of a seed planted deep in the soil. For a long time it looks like nothing is happening. But beneath the surface there's growth. Roots are being established, strength is being built. And when the time is right, that seed bursts forth into something beautiful and fruitful. Your season of obscurity is your time to grow roots. It's your time to build the foundation that will sustain the weight of the calling God has placed on your life. Because when the spotlight finally shines, when the doors open, you'll need more than just talent or ambition. You'll need the wisdom, humility, and resilience that only comes from walking through seasons of preparation. And let's be honest, preparation isn't always comfortable. Trials come, challenges test you. You may feel like you're being stretched to your limit. But every trial has a purpose. Every challenge is refining you, strengthening you, and equipping you with the tools you'll need for your next level. It's like clay on a potter's wheel. The potter has to press, shape, and mold the clay. Sometimes it looks messy, sometimes it feels like it's being torn apart. But the potter has a vision for the final piece, and every movement is intentional. That's what God is doing in your life. He's shaping you into a masterpiece, even when the process feels painful. And here's the beauty of it. When God brings you out of obscurity, people will see the result of His work, but they'll never fully understand the process. They won't know about the nights you cried out to God in prayer, the battles you fought in silence, or the strength it took to keep going when no one else believed in you. But you'll know, and you'll be able to stand in your purpose with confidence, knowing that you're not there by accident. You're there because God has prepared you. So, if you're in a hidden season right now, don't despise it. Embrace it. Trust that God is using this time to prepare you for something greater than you can imagine. Keep showing up, keep growing, and keep believing. Because when the time is right, God will elevate you, and all that preparation will make sense. Sometimes, life feels like a series of random events, a chance meeting, a conversation that changes everything, or a door that opens unexpectedly. But what if I told you that none of it is random? God is a master orchestrator, aligning paths and connecting people in ways that only He can. He uses divine connections to propel His chosen ones into places they never could have reached on their own. Think about Joseph. One day he's sitting in a prison cell, forgotten and seemingly stuck. The next, he's standing in Pharaoh's court, interpreting dreams that no one else could decipher. But here's the thing, Joseph didn't orchestrate that moment. God did. He placed Joseph exactly where he needed to be and aligned the right people to notice him. Pharaoh's cupbearer, who had met Joseph in prison, remembered him at just the right time. That connection wasn't luck or coincidence, it was divine timing. The same goes for David. He was out in the fields tending sheep, living a life of total obscurity. But God aligned his path with Samuel, who anointed him as the future king of Israel, and later with King Saul, who brought David into the palace after hearing about his talent with the harp. These weren't just meetings, they were pivotal connections that set the stage for David's destiny. God uses people, mentors, leaders, and even those in positions of influence to elevate His chosen ones. And here's the beautiful part. When God connects you to the right people, you don't have to force it. You don't have to push or strive to be noticed. When it's God's timing, those connections will come naturally, and they will have a purpose far greater than you can imagine. It's not about climbing the ladder of success or chasing after recognition. It's about being aligned with God's will and allowing Him to place you exactly where you need to be. That's the thing about divine connections. They're not always about fame or popularity. They're about purpose. Being chosen by God isn't about being seen by the world. It's about fulfilling the unique calling He's placed on your life. And that calling isn't always glamorous. It's not about standing in the spotlight or being celebrated by the masses. It's about being obedient, faithful, and willing to go wherever God leads you. We live in a world that glorifies visibility. Social media, awards, and recognition often make it seem like the ultimate goal is to be known, followed, or admired. But God's chosen ones are called for something deeper. It's not about popularity, it's about purpose. It's about using your gifts, talents, and influence to make an impact for His kingdom. Jesus Himself is the greatest example of this. He wasn't born into wealth or fame. He didn't seek the approval of crowds. In fact, many rejected Him, but everything He did was aligned with His Father's will. His life wasn't about gaining followers, it was about fulfilling His purpose, to bring salvation to humanity. So, if you ever feel like you're being overlooked, remember this. God doesn't promote based on popularity. He promotes based on purpose. He's not looking for those who seek fame. He's looking for those who seek Him. When your heart is aligned with His will, when you're faithful in the small things, He will elevate you in ways that no man can. It's not always easy. There will be times when it feels like others are being chosen ahead of you. Times when you wonder if your moment will ever come. But don't lose heart. God's timing is perfect, and His plans for you are good. Stay faithful, stay obedient, and trust that He's working all things together for your good. Because when God chooses you, it's not about being seen, it's about being sent. Sent to make an impact, sent to serve, sent to fulfill the purpose that He's uniquely designed for you. And when you step into that purpose, you'll find a joy and fulfillment that no amount of recognition or fame could ever provide. Keep your eyes on him. Stay focused on your purpose, not on the applause of the world, because God's chosen ones aren't just seen, they're called. And when you walk in that calling, you become part of something so much bigger than yourself, a story of redemption, grace, and purpose that only God could write. Sometimes it feels like the odds are stacked against you. Maybe you've faced rejection after rejection, or the door you've been knocking on refuses to budge. But let me remind you of something powerful. When God's favor is at work in your life, no one can shut the doors he opens. Divine favor doesn't operate within the limits of human reasoning. It makes the impossible possible. Take Esther, for example. She was an orphan, an outsider, with no reason to expect she'd ever be noticed by anyone of importance. But God's favor on her life brought her before the king, making her queen at just the right moment in history. And when the time came, she used that position not for her own gain, but to save an entire nation. Esther didn't get there by chasing opportunities or trying to force her way into the palace. It was God who placed her there, and it was his favor that turned what seemed impossible into reality. That's how divine favor works. It defies logic. It places you in rooms where your qualifications fall short, but your calling shines through. It's the kind of favor that makes people say, "I don't know why, but I feel like I should help you," or "I can't explain it, but this opportunity feels right for you." When God's hand is on your life, he'll pave the way, even when others doubt you, even when you doubt yourself. But here's the thing about favor. It's not just for your benefit. It's meant to bless others and bring glory to God. And that's where integrity comes in. Because God doesn't just elevate people for their talent or potential. He elevates those he can trust, those who will use their influence to serve, uplift, and honor him. Influence without integrity is a dangerous thing. It might get you to the top, but it won't keep you there. God knows this, which is why he doesn't rush the process. He takes the time to build your character in the quiet seasons, teaching you humility, faithfulness, and resilience. He's not just preparing you for the platform, he's preparing you to stay there. Remember Joseph? Even when he was betrayed by his brothers, sold into slavery and falsely accused, he never wavered in his integrity. He remained faithful even in the lowest moments. And because of that, God elevated him to a position of immense influence where he was able to save countless lives. Joseph's story is a testament to this truth. God will not place you where your character cannot sustain you. Integrity matters because influence isn't just about being seen, it's about being trusted. When God elevates you, he's entrusting you with something precious, an opportunity to make an impact, to lead with love, and to reflect his light. It's not about your name being celebrated, it's about his name being glorified through your life. And here's the challenge. Maintaining integrity isn't always easy. It means doing the right thing, even when no one's watching. It means staying humble, even when success comes. It means resisting the temptation to take shortcuts or compromise your values for the sake of recognition. But when you choose integrity, you're choosing to honor God, and he honors those who honor him. Divine favor and influence are powerful gifts, but they come with a responsibility. God isn't looking for perfection. He's looking for faithfulness. He's looking for people who will steward their blessings wisely, who will use their platform to uplift others, and who will remain rooted in him, no matter how high they rise. So, if you're in a season where it feels like the doors aren't opening, or the opportunities seem out of reach, trust this. God's favor is working behind the scenes. Stay faithful, stay humble, keep your integrity intact, because when the time comes, God will open the doors no one can shut, and He will elevate you to a place where your character can shine as brightly as your calling. And when that happens, it won't just be about your success. It will be about the lives you touch, the impact you make, and the way God's favor flows through you to bless others. That's the kind of influence that lasts, the kind that brings glory to God and changes the world for the better. Breakthroughs often come from the most unexpected places. In fact, some of the greatest moments of transformation in life happen where we least expect them. God has a way of taking unconventional paths, flipping the script, and positioning His chosen ones in ways that defy all human understanding. Take Moses, for example. He wasn't born a leader. He was born into a situation that should have ended his life before it began. Yet, through divine intervention, he was raised in Pharaoh's palace, gaining the education and experience he'd later need to lead a nation. But Moses didn't stay in the palace. After fleeing Egypt, he spent years as a shepherd in the wilderness, far removed from the halls of power. It probably felt like a dead end, like his chance to make an impact had passed him by. But what Moses couldn't see was that the wilderness was part of his preparation. God was working on his heart, teaching him humility, patience, and resilience. And when the time was right, God called Moses out of obscurity, out of that seemingly unimportant life as a shepherd, and positioned him to lead his people out of bondage. That's how God works. He uses the places we least expect, the paths we never would have chosen, to prepare us for the moments that will change everything. The wilderness, the waiting, the detours, they're all part of the process. And often it's in those unexpected places that God shapes us into who we need to be for what's coming next. Sometimes we get so focused on where we think we should be or how we think things should happen that we miss the beauty of what God is doing in the here and now. But His ways are higher than ours. He sees the big picture, and He knows the exact path that will lead to your breakthrough, even if it doesn't look like the one you would have chosen. This is where God's timing comes in. It can be so hard to wait, especially when you feel like you're ready for the next step, the next opportunity, or the next level. But God's timing is never random. It's perfect. He doesn't just want to elevate you. He wants to elevate you at the exact moment when you'll have the greatest impact. Think about it. If Moses had tried to lead the Israelites too early, before God called him, it would have been a disaster. He needed time in the wilderness to grow, to mature, and to hear God's voice. The same is true for you. Sometimes the delay isn't a denial. It's God's way of ensuring you're fully prepared for the weight of the calling He's placed on your life. Waiting can feel like you're stuck, but in God's hands, waiting is active. It's not wasted time, it's preparation time. While you're waiting, God is aligning circumstances, opening doors, and preparing hearts. He's working behind the scenes in ways you can't see, ensuring that when the moment comes, everything will be in place for your elevation. And when that moment comes, it will be undeniable. The opportunities will align, the doors will open, and you'll step into a season that makes all the waiting worthwhile. Because when God elevates you, it's not just about your timing, it's about His purpose. He's positioning you to make an impact, to influence, and to fulfill the calling He's placed on your life. So if you're in a season of waiting, trust that God hasn't forgotten you. The breakthrough is coming. It may not look like what you expected, and it may not come when you planned, but it will be exactly what you need, exactly when you need it. Be patient, be faithful, and trust in His timing, because when the breakthrough comes, it will be so much bigger and better than anything you could have imagined. God doesn't just want to elevate you. He wants to do it in a way that brings Him glory and makes a lasting impact on the world around you. Stay ready, because your breakthrough might just come from the most unexpected place. When God elevates someone, it's never just about them. His plans are always bigger than what we can see in the moment. The elevation of His chosen ones creates a ripple effect, spreading far beyond their personal blessings and reaching families, communities, and even nations. God's work in your life is designed to influence and transform the world around you. Look at Joseph's story again. When God took him from the prison to Pharaoh's palace, it wasn't just so Joseph could enjoy a life of luxury and power. No, his elevation had a greater purpose. Through Joseph's leadership and wisdom, an entire nation was saved from famine, and not just Egypt. Surrounding countries, including Joseph's own family, came to Egypt for survival. Joseph's promotion wasn't just for him. It was for the countless lives God intended to bless through him. The same was true for Esther. Her elevation to queen wasn't simply about her living a royal life. God positioned her to stand in the gap for her people. When the Jewish nation faced annihilation, it was Esther's courage and willingness to act that saved them. Her elevation wasn't about her. It was about the lives God wanted to protect through her obedience. This ripple effect is God's way of showing us that His plans are never small or limited. When He raises someone up, He's thinking generationally. He's thinking about the lives that will be touched, the doors that will be opened, and the transformations that will take place because of one person's willingness to say yes to His calling. And this isn't just a concept for biblical times. It's happening today. Think about how one act of kindness, one moment of leadership, or one step of faith can change everything for someone else. God uses His chosen ones to shift atmospheres, to bring hope where there's despair, and to ignite faith in others. Your elevation, whether it's in your workplace, your family, or your community, has the power to inspire others to step into their own calling. Here's the beauty of it. The ripple effect of elevation doesn't rely on fame or massive platforms. Sometimes, the greatest transformations happen in the smallest, quietest ways. A parent who decides to lead their family with love and integrity can change the trajectory of generations. A teacher who goes the extra mile for their students can inspire dreams that shape the future. A person who steps into leadership in their community can create opportunities that lift others out of struggle. God's elevation is always tied to purpose. He's not interested in promoting people for their own glory or comfort. He's looking for those who are willing to be vessels, people who will take the blessings they've received and pour them out for the benefit of others. This is why staying connected to God's heart is so important. Elevation comes with responsibility. It's not about holding on to the blessings, but about multiplying them. When God raises you up, He's entrusting you with influence. He's giving you a platform, not for self-promotion, but for kingdom impact. And don't think you have to have it all figured out before God can use you. Look at Moses. He doubted himself, questioned his abilities, and felt unqualified. But God reassured him, "I will be with you." It wasn't Moses' strength or qualifications that mattered. It was his willingness to obey and let God work through him. When God elevates you, He equips you. He gives you the wisdom, resources, and strength to fulfill the purpose He's placed on your life. And as you step into that purpose, the ripple effect begins. Your obedience inspires others. Your courage encourages them to take their own steps of faith. Your influence creates opportunities for those who come after you. So, remember this: your elevation isn't just for you. It's for the people you'll impact, the lives you'll touch, and the legacy you'll leave behind. God's plans are always bigger than we can imagine, and when He chooses to elevate you, it's because He sees the potential for transformation, not just in your life, but in the world around you. Stay humble, stay obedient, and let God use you to create ripples that will echo for generations to come. Because when He elevates His chosen ones, it's never just about the individual, it's about His kingdom and the countless lives He wants to bless through you. Sometimes it feels like setbacks are the end of the road. The dreams you've worked so hard for seem out of reach, or the plans you've carefully laid out suddenly seem to fall apart. But I want you to hear this today. Even in moments of delay, disappointment, or apparent defeat, God is still at work. The setbacks you face are not signs that God has forgotten you. In fact, they're often the very things He's using to prepare you for the breakthrough He has planned. Take Joseph's story, for example. He didn't have an easy journey to the top. His path was filled with betrayal, rejection, and years of hardship. One moment, he was his father's favorite son, and the next, he was sold into slavery by his own brothers. It's hard to imagine anything more painful than being betrayed by those closest to you. Yet God used that betrayal as a stepping stone to Joseph's destiny. Joseph spent years in prison, wrongly accused, far from the life he once dreamed of. But in the midst of those setbacks, God was refining him. He wasn't just learning how to manage a household or interpret dreams. He was learning how to lead with integrity, how to handle power, how to rely on God in every circumstance. The setbacks Joseph faced weren't obstacles to his destiny. They were essential steps that prepared him for the moment when God would elevate him to leadership. God does the same in our lives. When setbacks come, it's easy to feel defeated or like we're being held back. But what if those challenges are part of the divine process? What if the very things that seem like setbacks are actually stepping stones to something greater? Sometimes it's the hardships, the seasons of waiting, struggling, and persevering that build the character and strength we need to handle the blessings God is about to pour out. Think about your own life. Maybe you've gone through things that, at the time, felt like the end of the road. You might have lost a job, faced financial struggles, dealt with personal setbacks, or even experienced betrayal. In the moment, those things can feel like the universe is against you. But when you look back, you can often see how those very challenges shaped you, built your resilience, and made you ready for the next chapter. Every time you overcame a challenge, you grew stronger. Every time you kept going despite the odds, you built the muscles of patience, perseverance, and trust in God. Those moments weren't wasted. They were part of God's process of elevating you. And that's the key. God doesn't waste anything. He doesn't let a single setback go unused. Every trial, every struggle, and every moment of delay has a purpose. They're not random or pointless. They're pieces of the puzzle that will fit together in a way that makes sense when God's timing is revealed. What feels like a setback today is often positioning you for a breakthrough tomorrow. So, if you're in the midst of a trial, or if you feel like you've been stuck in a season of waiting, take a moment to reframe your perspective. Don't see it as something that's holding you back. See it as part of the preparation. God is using this time to refine you, to strengthen your faith, and to equip you for the next phase of your journey. Remember, Joseph didn't stay in the pit or in the prison. His story didn't end in betrayal or hardship. It ended with him standing in a position of power, saving nations, and fulfilling the purpose God had designed for him from the beginning. Your story isn't over either. The setback you're facing might be the very thing that sets you up for the next level of elevation. So keep going, keep trusting, and know that God is working behind the scenes, using every challenge, every setback, and every delay to prepare you for the greatness He has planned. Your breakthrough is coming, and when it does, you'll see how every struggle, every moment of pain, and every trial has led you to exactly where you need to be. Trust the process, and trust that God is using your setbacks as stepping stones to something greater.